Please welcome the very funny Suren Jayemanne.
Hey. Thank you. Thank you so much for the warm welcome. That's lovely. I'm stoked to be here. I've been doing a lot of gigs recently for very small crowds. It's by my choice. Like, I don't want your pity, right? But I read a study in the Sydney Morning Herald recently that said 1 in 10 Australians identify as openly racist, right? 1 in 10, that's crazy. When I read that, like every gig, I just call up ahead and I'm like, can we just cap the audience at 9? I should just warn you, right? Like, I do talk a bit about race in my comedy, and just as a courtesy to the people in the audience, like the white people in the audience, right? What I like to do now is just give a little safe word to you, right? Just so you can say the safe word at any point. If you feel uncomfortable, you're like, hey, this brown guy on stage being all uppity, this is too much Waleed Ali for me, right? You just have the safe word, and then I've got heaps of other jokes I can do as well. Like, recently I discovered it's becoming more and more expensive to maintain a relationship with a sex doll. I guess that's the cost of inflation. Yeah. It's got heaps of these other jokes, right? So, if at any point you do feel uncomfortable, please feel free to say the safe word. It is colonialism. Please feel free in the way my people were not. I was thinking about this recently. Have you noticed that there's some names that are just like old white people names? Have you noticed that? Like, some names that only old white people have, right? But then, quite bizarrely, also 25-year-old international students. It's a bit weird. I met this woman the other day. She was like, hi, my name's Shin, but you can call me Ethel, which... It's a bit weird. I asked Shin, I was like, where did you get the name Ethel, right? And Shin told me when she came to Australia, she went through customs, did her paperwork, and then she went to the next counter, right? Which is where you can apply for your Anglo-sounding name, right? And obviously in Australia, it helps to have an Anglo-sounding name because it helps with the little things like getting a job, right? Or placing an order at Boost Juice. I don't know if there's any Andrews or Bens out there watching, right? But if you think it's too easy for you to place an order at Boost Juice, just tomorrow, when you go to place an order, just tell them your name's Suren, all right? And then watch as your juice sits there for 45 minutes because you didn't realise you're now Susan, right? So Shin, she gets to the counter, she wants her Anglo-sounding name, right? But the guy behind the counter, he's working at the airport. No one likes working at the airport, right? He's having a shitty day. He's a little bit bored. And she gets there, she's like, hi, I'm Shin. Can I have my Anglo-sounding name, right? And just for shits and giggles, he pulls out a copy of Most Popular Boys and Girls Names, 1912. Here, Ethel. Have the name of someone who would have hated you. Colonialism. I think it's a fair trade though, right? She gets Ethel and then they take Shin, the Chinese name, right? They'll give it to the next baby panda at the zoo. I think it's pretty nice. Unless it's an Indian name, right? And then what they'll do is they'll give it to the next white girl that signs up to be a yoga instructor, right? I went to a yoga retreat with my girlfriend recently, right? And a lot of men, they wouldn't tell you that they went to a yoga retreat. But I feel comfortable to do it because I went with my girlfriend and she's white and her people invented yoga. You know, it's an Eastern philosophy like Bondi, Paddington, Double Bay. I was at the retreat, right? There were 3 instructors. 2 of them were white ladies and 1 of them an Indian lady, right? And the 2 white women, they were called Lakshmi and Lakshmi. They were both called Lakshmi. Right? And then the Indian one was called Anne. Weird. Sometimes my friends come and they watch me and they're like, hey, Suren, you talk a lot about race in your comedy. Do you think that Australia is a racist country, right? And I don't know. I don't have an answer to that question. I think it's a very nuanced question. But I will tell you this. Recently, I heard someone say, I grew here, you flew here, right? Which, you know, I was shocked when the words came out of my mouth. especially because it was to mum and dad. Like I shouldn't have done that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.